Hey, this is Mike. Welcome to the Wandering Minds podcast.
I am Mickey, and today we have Austin Hodges.
Yes, ma'am.
Welcome.
Thank you.
So, Austin, you reached out to me about coming on the podcast. You're very interested. You got a really, really interesting life story. I know you're buddies with Kevin Bain.
Yes, sir.
He is a beast. So tell me your story. Tell me who you are, wherever you want to start, whatever your comfort zone, you let me know. I want to hear your story.
Just starts long ago from childhood. It just,
Where are you from?
I actually grew up in Brookings, Oregon.
Oh, okay.
Right down there on the southern coast on the border of California and Oregon. Lived there for 14, 15 years, moved to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, and I was just starting high school, and long life since then.
Yeah.
But
a lot of life, right?
yeah, I just did 5 years in prison for drug addiction and grand theft of stolen firearms.
Okay.
I just got out in December, so I've been out 10 months.
Nice. What got you onto that path?
I just think from a young age, it was kind of, I grew up with a very abusive father, I grew up in the church. So for me, it was kind of weird being that Christian household. On Sunday morning, everything was perfect. And then the other 6 days and 3/4 days would be dad pissed off, abusive, making us watch him beat our mom. Like,
Wow.
Dad was very,
He would make you watch?
yeah. And if we looked away or tried to leave, it would be worse for us. Like, he was very, wasn't a good man, but just gives you a little bit of hope and promise not to be that person for yourself. And
Yeah. But it sounds to me like you almost went down that way, right?
I did. It was from a young age when you're told like you're worthless, you'll never be nothing. It kind of, when your dad's the one telling you that, he's the one that's supposed to like protect you and be everything for you. And as a young man, it's like, wow, like if my dad's saying that, it's got to be true.
Yeah.
So, F it.
Yeah.
I'm going to do what I want. And
Because he was your role model
yeah, and it's
and
like
your idol to a certain degree.
I told myself my whole life I would never be like him at all. And then from a young age, it was just, I saw myself in those steps, but I didn't know how to get out of it. It was very me. I do what I want when I want.
Yep.
And from a young age, just drug addiction and
What was that age?
alcoholism.
What was that age? Can you remember?
I think I started drinking and getting drunk when I was about 12.
Okay.
And then it just escalated to high school parties and then people hanging out and escalated to Oxycontin at about 16, 17. And that's a pretty rough road to start at such a young age. And it just,
Snowball.
for me, it just got worse and worse, and trying to live a double life of being people who my family thought I was, because my mom and my stepdad and all of my real dad's whole family are great, amazing people.
Yeah.
Very Christian, very like by the book. This is how it is. This is what we expect. And then my dad's just so far gone. It's so hard to understand things. And
Really? Did he have any kind of addiction?
I believe before I was born, I think
Okay.
he was into things.
Yeah.
It's just in the 80s and 90s. And
Yeah.
But it just, from a young age, when you're told that stuff and you see that kind of stuff, it kind of, I think you see the world from a different perspective. I think it's very easy for people when they go through trauma to think they're the victim in society, or I was dealt this, so
I have to act this way.
Yeah, nobody else is going to tell me any different, because
Yeah.
I've lived what I've seen. And it's like, especially being so young, I think the first time I got abused, I was 2.
Really?
Yeah. And my dad's put me in the hospital multiple times.
Oh my
And
God.
the last time I was 12, I was in 6th grade, and my teacher I showed up to school the next day, and it was actually right after church service. And my teacher, the next day she asked me what happened, because he broke every single rib off my sternum, right off the bone, and my face was all messed up, and my jaw was just hairline fractured on the left side. And about 12 years old, and my teacher, she asked me what happened, and I just instantly was like, I got in a fight up the river with some kid. And after school, she goes, "You're staying in my room." And I didn't understand. And then she goes, "The cops are on the way. There's no way a kid did that to you. Like,
Yep.
you're staying here." Like, and she locked me in her classroom, and they called my dad and said, Austin, like there's a conference, we need you here. And the cops actually arrested him when he got there. So my teacher I think she kind of saved my life at one point.
Yeah.
Mrs. Leonard down there in Brookings. And
shout out.
Yeah, I remember seeing my mom pick me up.
It's okay.
Like when she saw me, it was like she like fainted. Because she didn't understand like who could do that to a kid.
Yeah.
And even though she lived it before she could get away from him, she lived it for years. Like who can do that, like something like that horrible to a kid?
Yeah.
And just live your life like it's fine.
Your own kid of all things.
And my dad, he just escalating through drug addiction. And when I was 16, I'm the youngest of 5 boys. My dad has 5 kids with different women. My brother, that's a year and a half older than me, he has high functioning autism. And he's one of the coolest people ever, but we have same mom, same dad. So we're the only real with my dad. And then my mom and stepdad have 2 kids. But I've grown up like a fighter my whole life because seeing all that stuff that I've lived through and been through, and then my brother getting picked on in school, it was like my whole instincts, my whole life's always been to fight.
Yeah.
And I started MMA when I was 16 because my mom found one in Coeur d'Alene, Idaho. She was tired of me fighting, tired of me getting in trouble, and she found a guy at church named Derek Cleveland who ran a pretty strict school, pretty faith-based jiu-jitsu dojo, and started training there. And I was a naturally gifted wrestler my whole life, so it came easy to me, and I took off with it.
Good.
And I had my first.
So that was your outlet
for a minute.
Yeah. Okay.
For a minute.
Yeah.
And then I feel like with me, with my life, even still to this day, I still struggle with when things go really good. When I feel like I'm getting there, I'm getting somewhere. I always just gotta bring myself back down for some reason, some way.
Is it because you don't believe in yourself? Because you've literally been abused to the point where you don't think you're worthy of success?
It's like that self-sabotage.
I think that's what it is. I still got that little voice in my head that's like, there's no way your life is this good. So let's
Well,
you
know you are though. You are worthy.
Yeah.
Don't tell that voice to fuck off.
Yeah. And
Seriously.
I see it all now, and it's like, I just got out of prison after 5 years in December, and I met my now ex-girlfriend the week I got out, and we just broke up like a month ago. And that's probably, like, when I tell people, it's probably like one of the harder things I've actually ever been through is losing her. Is because when you find like somebody that finds you in those moments when you're kind of like, I was just out and I was like, man, am I going to make it? Am I going to actually be successful like I want to be?
Yeah.
And I met her, and it was just like everything seemed to happen so fast and so easy. And like when you feel like you have that almost like a spiritual tie to somebody's soul, and you kind of lose it, it's kind of like, again, my own self-sabotage thing, my own abandonment issues kind of push that one to the side. But just a lot of things, it seems like a lot of things for me will come back into my life even when I don't want it to, and I try to push it down, but I've kind of realized in the past, honestly, last month, that I need to start facing these things. I need to put myself in these uncomfortable situations to really have my insecurities come to the surface, so that way I can face them, because you can only push them down for so long before they keep coming back.
Yeah. Well, and the reality is you can't get through anything until you face it.
Yeah, you can try to push it to the side, but
it's not going to work.
It'll always come back in your face eventually.
Well, and it makes you stronger. And that's one of my questions was, did any of your other siblings get abused the way that you did, or at all?
My brother Nick probably got the worst of it.
Okay.
And he's 35. He's in Grants Pass. He's been through rehab probably 10 times. So he's at that point where everybody's given up on him because he's done it so many times.
Yeah.
But I told him, I was like, I won't give up on you.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm not going to enable your choices if they're bad.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not going to send you money. I'm not going to do none of that. But if you choose to do good, I don't mind helping, pay your bills if I talk to the people that you owe. Or if you choose to make these good choices, I will be there in your corner.
Yeah.
But at the same time, if you start messing up again, I'm going to be there to let you know, like, hey, you're fucking up, so we need to get you back on track.
Yeah.
And I think that's real love. You can't just...
It's true love.
Like, I feel like especially in today's society, people have such a misconception of what real love is. People try so hard to condone every choice somebody makes because they're scared that they're not going to be accepted.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the way I was raised is unconditional love is you can tell those people when they're messing up, because if you really truly love somebody and they start messing up, you're not going to condone the choices that they're doing to mess up.
Yeah.
Because you love them. You want them to change it. You want them to see what they're doing is wrong.
Yeah. Because you love them.
Yeah. And it's...
Well, and that's, I think, part of the big problem with people in your situation, your brother's situation, is you've allowed things that were put up on you, done to you, to define you. That you didn't choose any of this. This happened to you. And that's where you got to get this idea of who you are, and don't let that define you. He's allowing these situations to define who he is. He didn't do that to himself. You didn't do that to yourself. So why would you allow it to define who you are now? Why would you allow that situation, as fucked up as it was, to define you now or your future? And that's where the mind shift comes in.
It's definitely something that is real.
Yeah.
I mentor troubled youth kids because I'm a man of God. I believe in God full-heartedly, and I just got baptized again about a month ago because I kind of rededicated my life, and I do things through the church like discipleship to kind of help better my understanding of God and who he really is and how I can help others with that. Good. Because for me, I believe I had to go through what I've been through in order for him to use me for what he needs me for.
Yeah.
And if that's, I'm open about my life story because, like people say, you don't ever know who's listening, and you don't ever know who, like, my story could be somebody's survival guide.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of like making it through addiction and gangs and all the things I've been through. It's kind of, I'm still here.
You're still here.
Like, I'm here for a purpose.
Yeah.
Like, I've made it through a lot of things that probably would have killed a lot of normal people, but I'm not normal.
Yeah.
I mean, I am who I am. I'm unique, and I'm definitely a fighter. I don't quit.
Yeah.
Like, I just had a whole knee replacement surgery 5 months ago.
Oh, God.
And when my doctor told me I couldn't ever fight again, probably it was a very kind of depressed, lonely feeling again, because it was a lot of the things I've known a lot of my life, like MMA, fighting, working out. Like, he made all this stuff sound like it was probably a long distant future possibility.
Yeah.
And for me, that was just like a shot to the heart, you know. And,
you prove them wrong.
well, I did. I didn't take any pain medication throughout my whole surgery recovery, nothing. I bit the bullet.
Yeah.
And I just said a couple weeks of pain and still knowing in my head that I don't need that.
Yeah.
It's definitely, because of my addictive personality, if I started telling myself I needed it, it wouldn't have stopped at surgery. I would have probably fell back into that world. And
that's good that you were aware of that. You've been running, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was post-op then.
I started running about a month and a half out of surgery.
Gosh.
And started off pretty slow, and my doctor was he wasn't happy about it.
No, I don't know.
But I said,
fuck him.
I said, hey, I'm not a 60-year-old lazy, out of shape person that you say sit on the couch for 6 months and recover. Do physical therapy twice a week.
Yeah,
that's not me.
Sitting is not the thing when you need to.
That's not my strong suit.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I've sat this long without moving. But I probably clock in about 50, 60, 70 miles a week.
Wow.
And then I just started getting back into my CrossFit routines about 2 weeks ago, and
Nice.
me and Kevin actually did a routine probably a week or two ago. So
Sweet.
Yeah. How is your knee holding up?
I think it's good.
Yeah.
Still walking.
Got about another 3,000 miles on it, I think.
Wow.
But it's a funny thing is that was actually my good knee.
Oh no.
My bad one's this one.
And how old are you right now?
28.
Oh shit. Good for you, man.
That's
But I've
super
been-
young for a knee replacement. What happened to it?
I was sparring. I was training for a potential fight down in California.
Okay.
MMA, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I trained with Jimmy Jeanette over at Checkered Pass.
Okay,
Just because
cool.
we have similar past, similar incarceration, drugs, whatever it
Yeah.
may be. But he has such a heart for the community. Like he has a drug-free youth program. That
He's
he
a big dude, right? Is
Yeah,
he
he's
a big
like
dude?
6'9", 300 pounds.
I actually met him at a gym one time.
And he's the nicest.
Yeah.
When I first met him, I was like looking up to him, just like this guy that's a foot taller than me, just huge. And I was 2 days out of prison.
Yeah.
And he wraps me up and hugs me. He's like, I love you, man. If you ever need anything, I'm here.
Yeah.
And it was just like, for me and my mentality, it's like, okay, what do you want from me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because my whole life it's been people will do whatever they want or they'll say what they want in
To get
order
something.
because if they see potential in you or they can use you in some way
Yep.
that they're going to do it. So in my mind, it was like, okay, what do you want from me?
Yeah.
And for me, things take time. Trust is a really big thing for me that it takes a minute.
Yeah.
But if you get it, it's there forever
It's there, yeah.
until you,
Fuck it up.
and then it's second chances with me are very hard.
Same.
And going back to kind of high school, I was a very gifted wrestler and baseball player. I actually had a D1 scholarship to Tulane to play baseball down in Louisiana. And my grades weren't the best because I'd rather party and go chase women and
Of course.
all that stuff you do when you're in high school, you know, and but it was all just trying to fill that spot that just is empty.
Yeah.
And like chasing all this temporary goodness for nothing makes that hole so much bigger and bigger and bigger over time.
Oh, absolutely.
And it's when you don't have, for me, when I was in high school, and I didn't have the drugs or the alcohol or the women, it was like that pit just got so much darker and darker, and depression, and it like kills you as a man, and it just going from that. And
were you ever suicidal?
yeah, I had a point when I was about, I think I was about 15. It was actually after a phone conversation with my dad, and it was just trying to move forward with my life. And I believe I told him, like, we're way better off without you. I don't want anything from you. I don't need you.
Yeah.
Nobody needs you, really, honestly. Like, that's how I still feel. And he's like, oh, well, just kill yourself. Nobody needs you either. You're a piece of shit. And I'm like, I'm 15. Like, okay. So I actually took my stepdad's gun and, like, had it in the bathroom. And I was, like, sitting there on the toilet just contemplating it. And I think my little sister was probably 5 years old, and she like knocked on the bathroom door, and she asked when I was going to be done, and I was like, at that point, I was like, you have a life.
Yeah.
Like, you have siblings that look up to you. You have a family. Like,
Yeah.
you're so much better off than 90% of the people that take little things in life for granted. Like,
Absolutely.
I have a roof over my head. I have food. I never went without.
Yeah.
And it's like, my mom and my stepdad, they worked so hard to make sure none of us went without anything. And I was such an athlete that I played sports year round, and it was constant traveling. And like, I wrestled year round. I wrestled all over the United States. I wrestled all over and played baseball all over. And I had scholarships for wrestling and baseball. And I actually enlisted with the Marine Corps my junior year in high school. I did the delayed entry program. But I got in some trouble in school for punching a kid, so I got a battery charge. So I had to get some waivers for the Marines. And Nick, my brother that I talked about earlier with addiction, his twin brother Brandon actually was a Marine. He did 8 years in the Marine Corps, and now he's a cop in Richmond, California, right by Oakland, and he loves it. But that's why I wanted to go in the Marine Corps, because it was very, for me, they were the best of the best. They were the grittiest. They were the toughest. They were the, growing up the way I did, it was men don't show emotion, and for me, that was it.
Yeah.
And school wasn't my thing, but I tried to I loved sports. I tried to play it off like it was, but my ADHD is so bad that I can't. School is not for me.
Yeah.
And but then at the same time, how I grew up with my dad, trying to please my mom, trying to please like everybody that had such high hopes in me, like my MMA coach Derek, the one that gave me my start, and I got my blue belt in jiu-jitsu within 6 months, and just because my wrestling was very on point. And
What are the levels? It's white.
you got white, blue, purple, brown, black for adults. The
Okay.
kids got like yellow, orange, green. Like they go all the way up, kind of like karate. But
But blue within 6 months is pretty good because you're going from white to blue.
yeah, I think
Yeah.
it usually takes about 2 years.
Okay.
Wow.
Because they add the little tabs at the end.
Yeah, you get like little stripes, 3 stripes usually, and then you go to your next belt.
Okay, yeah.
But I had a lot of potential, and then so for me, I was living like 4 lifestyles:
Yeah.
athlete, sports, family,
Gangster.
gang stuff,
Yeah.
drugs, addiction, everything, and I hid it so well for so long. Mm-hmm. Like when I got arrested, nobody, literally, like a lot of people that really knew me, family and stuff, were so shocked. And it was leading up to that point. It was all this stuff I had going for me. I felt like I had so much weight on my shoulders, but then at the same time, there's Doug right there saying, you're not good enough. You'll never be nothing. You're a piece of crap.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, Dad sees it. Why not prove him right, And I actually had a kid when I was in high school. She was born a couple months after I graduated, but I went to North Dakota to work, but I was working, but it was just a lot more than that. It was more,
Yeah.
I was moving things over there.
Oh, hustling.
Yeah, I was hustling a lot over there, and just years of trying to be a dad and trying to do the right thing. But in my head, it was, I never wanted kids
Yeah.
because of how I was raised. And
You were afraid?
I was
Were you
so
afraid?
afraid.
Okay.
I was so afraid that I was going to not give my kid the life she deserved because my dad put it in me at a young age that I was worthless.
Yeah.
And for me, it was knowing you're going to be a father, you need to be responsible and get your shit together. And for me, I did not have that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I had the money or whatever, but you'll realize that money is not everything.
Absolutely.
Like, you can't buy time, and time is so important. And I actually just got back in my kid's life a month ago after 6 years. I haven't seen her, talked to her in 6 years. And
Wow.
her mom's married to a guy in the Air Force. He took on a woman with 2 kids, and they got 2 more. And
Yeah.
my kid doesn't go without, so I can't say anything bad about him. He stepped up.
Absolutely.
But what's weird, because we actually have a relationship. All of us talk. Like,
Good.
we FaceTime all the time. She just turned 10 on Sunday. So,
Nice.
yeah, going through addiction. I was actually charged with grand theft and possession of stolen firearms. And I had a federal indictment come out that I was fortunate to beat because I wasn't supposed to be out of prison until 2053.
Oh, God.
Yeah, so I would have been probably like 58 years old.
Yeah.
But I did 5 years in the state of Idaho, and that was an experience. That was a lot of the lifestyle that I lived on the streets under one roof with thousands of people.
Oh, yeah. All like-minded.
And you think you're the toughest, this and that. You think you're
Right.
You think you're freaking got your head on straight. You get in there, and it's just like the way that they have respect in there compared to here on the streets.
Different life.
Just a word in there will cause a riot.
Yeah.
Like stepping over the invisible lines into somebody else's area will cause a race war.
Yeah.
And it's the smallest little details in there that are the hugest respect. Because you got those guys that are doing life that don't care, that it's like, that's their life.
Yeah.
That's what they know. And
This is their world.
they are proud to be there.
Yeah.
I met so many guys that, even in the 5 years I did, I met a guy that came back 2 different times. Like, he got parole, came back, got parole again, came back, and they finally were like, you're an idiot.
Yeah.
And then when that 3rd time happened, I think for him it was like, oh crap, like they ain't gonna put up with me anymore.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he's doing good. I don't really care, to be honest, about that whole lifestyle from my past from 10 months ago on. I don't really, if it's not my kid, it's probably doesn't need to be resurfacing.
Right.
But
Yeah.
at the same time,
It's a learning experience.
I definitely want to use what I've been through in my story for these kids, because a lot of these kids, like my ex, she's a teacher in middle school.
Okay.
So I used to hear about how a lot of these kids that she teaches are just so, parents are not involved or pretty much raise themselves or don't have clothes or even bed. Like some of the kids don't have beds. And it's like, I want to be at that point where I can be like financially stable enough to I can be able to do things for other people. Because my philosophy is, if I died tomorrow, that money in my savings account, what's it there for?
Right.
Like, I feel like a lot of people try to save for stuff that's like unknown or whatever, but you don't know when you're going to die.
Yeah.
Like, you really don't.
Yeah.
And if I can use what I have to help other people, I'm going to do it. And if that means I go without something, oh well.
Yeah.
People need stuff more than I do. Like, I'm alive. I'm sober 70 months.
Good for you.
I almost got 6 years sober from everything. Like, I'm alive. I have a good job. I have a house. I have a car. Like,
Yeah.
I am, in my mind, I am successful.
Yeah, you are. Absolutely.
And there's going to be nothing that's in my path, in my future, now, anything that's going to deter me back into my old lifestyle.
Yeah.
Because I know what I've been through, and I know what I've had to do to get here, and it's not going to be worth anything to go back.
Yeah. Yeah. Self-sabotage. So what are your goals? What plan do you have? What's a big picture goal for helping and for giving back?
My big picture goal, honestly, is to have an outreach to where I can mentor and kind of take in these troubled youth kids that don't really have a chance.
So are you thinking about like having a home type of thing, or just a safe place?
I would kind of like to start off small, probably like a safe place or after school programs to where,
That's a good one.
growing up like how I did, just having kind of somebody there from the outside be like, I love you, you're worth something.
Yeah.
As a kid, when you go through trauma, it's like, you're like, yeah, whatever, you're just somebody else. But when you get older, you're like, that person actually tried.
Yeah.
Or there's a lot of things I was told as a younger kid when I was like, yeah, whatever, you're stupid. But now that I'm older, it's like, holy crap, they told me that way back then.
And you remembered
And
it.
I remembered
That's the
it.
thing. Yeah.
And it's like,
You want to be that for
20
somebody.
years later, I remembered it.
Yeah.
Exactly word for word what she told me.
Yeah.
But back then when you're a kid, it was like, you're stupid. I'll never do that. And it's like, I want to be that voice for people that either feel like they're alone or because, like, I know what it's like to be like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, my first 5 years, I did 26 months in a cell by myself with no window.
Mm-hmm.
And talk about mental,
Yeah.
figuring out who you are mentally. Like, not seeing the sun for almost 2.5 years was probably, it was just weird. It was like I was blind, and then, but going from that to, I got out of my cell every third day for a 15-minute shower, but I was handcuffed and escorted.
Mm-hmm.
So I was in that box for 26 months, all day, every day for nothing. And then towards the end of my sentence, I went out to general population max, which was, I had a cellie, and then we got out every other day for an hour with like 10 people. But even then, right when the doors open, something happened. So
Yeah.
back to lockdown. So it was just, I'd say probably 4.5 years of the 5 I did was in a cell. I might have, probably closer to 4 years, 9 months.
Oh.
Because a lot of the times it's just people getting stabbed or
Yeah.
cops. I seen a lot of cops get beat up, stabbed. I seen a lot of people get stabbed, beat up pretty bad. Like, I seen a dude just get his head like stomped in to where it was just, his head was gone. Like, it was mush.
Yeah.
And it was disgusting, but
That's prison.
yeah. And people don't,
They don't understand.
I mean, you see the stuff on TV, but
Yeah.
it's just a different lifestyle.
Yeah. Well, I tell people all the time that you got people that are against police, want to ban guns. It's like, you guys don't know real violence. You don't know real violence, or else you would not want that shit.
I mean, it's gun regulation to like an extent.
Mm-hmm.
Like I agree with like the whole like background checks and stuff, because you don't really know. But at the same time, how deep does that background check go? Because if you're mentally unstable, that's not going to show in a background.
Right.
So if there's a way to like, if somebody's very mentally unstable and they're in therapy or something, if there's a way to put them in the system, like, hey,
Yeah.
probably not give this person an AR or a 9 or something.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
cool.
you and I both know we can go anywhere and get a gun.
Yeah.
You can go anywhere and get a gun. I can go somewhere right now and probably find a fucking tank if I wanted to.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
If there's a will, there's a way.
Yeah.
And I tell people all the time, like, it's not the object. Like, if it's not a gun, it's a knife. It's not a knife, it's a rock. Like, Cain killed Abel with a rock. It's human nature. It's in your mind. It's like,
well, that's what I mean. True violence is going to happen.
It's going to happen no matter how. Look how regulated prison is. It happens all the
that's
time.
what I'm talking about. Yeah.
But we don't need to change. In my opinion, we don't need to change what's going on. We need to give help to the people that need it.
Well, we need to feed the soul, right?
Yeah, and I think that that's where you're going with like mentoring these kids, because it starts at such a young age, and like how powerful it is to show children, the youth, that they're loved and needed. Just because people grow up and they think that they're worthless, right? Like because of like things that their peers are telling them or their parents are telling them, and the impact obviously that it has on them, and like the snowball
effect,
and how it turns into these things where people look, you can't do a deep inspection to see like their mental health, right? Well, how did they get there?
Yeah.
Right? It starts at such a young age.
And I agree with you right there, because that's why I tell people all the time, we spend so much time masking what's on the surface instead of just getting through that hurt and that pain to get to the bottom, what really is going on with you. Mm-hmm. Like if you really sit there and be like, what is going on with me? Who am I? What have I been through? What makes me the way I am? And deal with it. You're going to keep having issues in your life.
Yeah. Absolutely. And what's shitty about that?
It's hard.
And it usually comes from our childhood.
And it's hard.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, when shit gets hard, they quit.
Yeah.
Or when it's uncomfortable or foreign, they quit.
Yeah.
And for me, mentally, like I tell people, like I have a lot of people that reach out to me for running because they see how much I run and what I do, and they ask to run with me, and I say, okay. And when we run, when people are like, oh, I'm hurting, it's like, get that out of your head.
Yeah.
You're going to sit here and mentally screw yourself over and say, I'm hurt, I'm hurt, I'm hurt. You're going to be hurt.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if you say, this ain't shit, I've been through worse, push through it, you'll get past that block.
Absolutely.
And no matter what you do in life, there's going to be roadblocks. And you can either choose to sit there and stare at it and be like, what the hell am I doing? Or you get the hell over it and move on with your life.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with fitness. That's the thing with life is if you don't have the mental capacity to push yourself,
you're not going
It's going to be hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you can learn that through dealing with your shit.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the self-love part is the real difficult, because what you're being taught is to not love yourself. When you have somebody beating you and abusing you, essentially they're teaching you right there from that young fucking age,
right?
Don't love yourself because I don't love you.
Yeah.
That's the hurdle.
And that was my big thing with God too, was hearing, like growing up in the church, knowing who he is. My whole family, everybody like was very keen on it. And then there's my dad, and it's just like,
yeah,
if you're real, like why are people like this here? Like, and then like for me, it was why God, why? Like you're letting this happen.
Yeah.
And it's like, you say you've known me my whole life before I was even born, and you knew I was going to be born into this. I had that victim mentality for 27 years of my life.
Yeah.
And it was like, it might be good in your head because it's what's comfortable to you. Like I said, people don't like getting out of their comfort zones.
Yeah.
Once they do, they freak out, they panic. They're like, I don't like this. I'm going back to how I used to be.
Yeah.
Because it's comfortable. But for me, I tell myself every day, I'm done being comfortable. Because I feel like when I start getting comfortable, I start feeling like I know everything again.
Yeah.
So if I'm not bettering myself with fitness or mentally reading psychology, if it's not something that's going to better myself every day, I don't want to be comfortable.
Yeah.
I'm not comfortable being comfortable.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm really not. And for me, I'm so like driven and determined and high strung that like I work 6 days a week, 15 hours a day, and I still wake up after 3-4 hours of sleep and go run, go to the gym, go spend my time with trying to get into the system to help these kids. And I just got accepted into the Lane County Juvenile Detention Center to mentor these kids. And
good for you.
It that was a big roadblock hurdle for me that I had to overcome, because it was always no because of my felonies. And I've only been out 10 months.
Yeah.
And
so things are actually moving pretty quickly then.
Yeah, a lot quicker than I thought. And
manifesting that shit.
I mean, I believe it's God's will, God's plan, God's purpose, and I trust it.
Yeah.
I don't really question a lot of things. Like if he tells me to go, I'm going to go. If he tells me to stay.
Well, see, and that takes me to, from a spiritual perspective, and a lot of people will blame God. Thank God, blame God. Easy. But it's easy to blame God, but from a spiritual perspective alone, we go through shit because we need to go through shit, because we need to learn. We need to learn and feel. But from my perspective, seeing it from outside in, your life has provided you the opportunity. It's as shitty as it is, as shitty as you had it.
I'm thankful for it.
You have to be, well, yes. And that's the thing, because your God knows your strength. So you were given this opportunity to go through the hell that you went through. That fly's driving me nuts.
Me too.
To go through the hell that you went through as the opportunity to help others. Because you can't help others. You can't truly help others if you don't go through that shit. And I'm not big on people thinking they know shit because they read shit out of a book. All you've done is regurgitate. You know what I mean? What you've read. People that go through stuff, live that life. Those are the people that help. Those are the people that can give back. But you had to go through hell to get there.
Yeah, that's what I tell. A lot of people will resonate with me more because
absolutely,
I didn't just go to college and become a counselor or psychologist or read some books and this and that. I've lived through the shit. I've been in the streets. I've been homeless. I've been a drug addict. I've been a gang member. I've been all that. Yeah. And I woke up one day in my prison cell, and I remember it like it was yesterday. And my mom sent me the Celebrate Recovery Bible, and I started to read it. And I just was sitting there, and I was like, you've done nothing with your life. Like, look where you're at. Look where your choices have brought you. And that's the whole thing with earlier talking about, like, people with the police or whatever. They're doing their job. And you got to come to a point in your life where you stop blaming everything on everybody else and take accountability for what you've done. Like, they're doing a job just like a store clerk that bags your groceries. Like, anybody doing a job is going to do their job. Now, if you're breaking the law and you're going to blame them, where's the accountability really at? Like, a lot of people...
Because they justify shit.
A lot of people that I've met in the system, my favorite one was always the whole, my PO put me here because I failed a UA.
Right.
And it's like...
But you're
the one that pissed in the cup, that pissed hot.
Yeah.
But you're going to blame your PO because how many chances did he give you? Oh, that was your fourth failed? Okay, well, no wonder why he put you back in here. But people, in their mind... It's so much easier to say it's that person's fault.
Yeah, play victim.
Instead of, you know what, I did this shit. I made the choices. No matter what cards I've been dealt in my life, no matter how shitty my childhood was, no matter how bad my addiction was, no matter how all that was, I still made the choice to do those things. Yeah. And I take accountability for what I've done. And that has allowed me to actually move forward with my life in a more positive way. I don't sit there and dwell on this past and say, poor me, poor me. Yeah. But at the same time, that gives me motivation.
Yeah. We have to use it as a tool because you learned from it.
Yeah. And I remember that day in my cell, I was just sitting there, and where I was at, you had to fill out a form to get a phone. And once a week you get a phone. It's like cordless, and you have to fill out a form. And I read a verse in the Bible, and it was just like, I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Like, I've known Philippians 4:13 my whole life. And I just sat there and I was like, man, like, this is not life. Like, this is not where you want to be or who you are. You got lost somewhere. You need to get back on track. And I just was like, how do I do that, God? And for me, I knew what I had to do. and I had to face my dad, and I had to be like, hey, what you did, I forgive you, and you're not going to have a hold on me anymore. I'm a man. I need to live my life for me and what I believe is best. And that, like, after I said that prayer, it was like I knew what I had to do. The cop knocked on my cell like 2 minutes later, and he goes, hey, Hodges, do you want to use the phone? I'm like, I'm not scheduled. And I'm like, no way it happens like that.
Yeah.
So I called him, and I was like, yeah, I wanted to call you, and not trying to start a fight, because that's usually how it goes with him when you tell him what he doesn't want to hear. But I was just like, I'm just going to tell you that everything you did to me as a child, the abuse, everything you did to me, my mom, like everything we've seen you do, I was like, I have to, like, forgive you. And it's like, not for you. I'm not doing it for you. I'm doing it for me.
Yeah.
Because until I can really sit here and say, like, you know, F you, you don't have a hold on me anymore. Everything you did to me, I forgive you for it. I'm never going to move on with my life. And this ain't a life. These four walls, this addiction, all this stuff, that ain't a life.
Yeah.
And it's like, I remember his response after I talked to him for a couple minutes, like, I forgive you for this, for this, for this. And he was just like, quit being a pussy. Like, you didn't have, like, your childhood was really great. You never went without anything. I'm like, I would have rather had none of that stuff that you gave us, because he's the person that shows love by financial giving.
Yeah.
And it's like dirt bikes and all this stuff. And it's like, I would have rather have had you be a dad.
Yeah.
Like,
Love.
Like, I missed that part of my childhood, and my mom tried so hard to be the both, and my stepdad stepped up and tried to be that. But just a kid with knowing who your real dad is, it's like, nobody loves you if you go through that stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And when he said that to me, I just, instead of getting mad or angry like I thought I would, I was just like, you know what? I did what I had to do. I forgive you. It's up to you to forgive yourself and move on with your life. Like, you're 59 years old, and I don't think I've ever seen you smile. And it's like, you need to forgive yourself and move on, because I'm sure deep down somewhere there's a decent person. But I'm at a point in my life where if I want to have a relationship with you, I'll reach out. And if I feel like if it's anything toxic, I'm in control of this relationship. I forgive you. I love you. I wouldn't be here without you. But at the same time, you are not going to have a hold on my life in any way, any shape, any form anymore.
Good for you.
And God, I think that was probably the best sleep I ever had in my whole life.
Yeah,
Really?
I was gonna ask, did you feel like lighter after saying that? Just like
I just felt,
taking that burden off of.
I felt like a whole new person, honestly.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was kind of like, you've made it this far, don't stop. It's like, you got to keep going.
Yeah, it's empowering to stand up to someone in that way, even if it's on the phone.
And forgive them.
And your dad.
To forgive them.
All of
Yeah,
those things.
yeah.
Yeah,
Forgiveness is a huge.
Forgiveness is hard.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people have a misconception on forgiveness, because I've heard a lot of people say, I forgive this person for that, but they'll see that person and be like, remember when you did this?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's like, if you forgive, you got to fully ingest that forgiveness and move on.
Yeah.
And you can't throw it back in that person's face that you said you forgave.
Yeah.
So it's kind of, forgiveness is definitely hard. And it's definitely,
Because it's ongoing.
yeah.
It's ongoing. You literally have to do it every day. Okay, so we're talking about forgiveness. Forgiveness is one of those ongoing, perpetual things that you have to
work at every day.
Yeah.
And it's not, when you forgive somebody, you don't forget it.
Yeah.
And that's what people have a hard time. Even me, it's like, even if I have a glimpse of something from my childhood or something, it's like, it puts that resentment in my heart for my dad, but it's like, you got to stop it.
Yeah.
Like, I forgave him, so don't, if you remember something, you got to get to that point where it doesn't bug you anymore.
Yeah.
And forgiveness shouldn't have like a stipulation, or it's not a convenience thing.
Yeah.
If you're really not ready to forgive somebody, don't do it. And I was at that point, I was ready.
Yeah.
I mean, I gave 27 years to that guy, controlling the way I lived my life and the way I thought. And
It can be super empowering to be able to forgive someone, especially a parent, to be able to say, like, I can move on from this, you know?
it was definitely liberating. It was definitely, for me, that feeling was like I just took a shot of heroin. So it was like anything that was going on in my life just dissipated. And that's the only thing I can think of is the only time I'd ever felt like that in my life was when I had that needle in my arm when I was chasing something else.
Yeah.
And for me, that was a huge deal. And it kind of, in a sense, gave me my purpose back. And now I feel like my purpose is to really kind of be a mentor and a light for these kids, as somebody that's not only lived through it, but I've experienced probably the harsher of the harshes of childhoods and addictions and different things like that. And when I say like my addiction was very severe. I shot heroin probably 10 times a day, oxys, meth, cocaine,
Wow.
everything out there, you name it. I was probably doing it every day. And within a year of before I got arrested, I had overdosed 3 times.
Wow.
Yeah, and
You obviously survived.
yeah. And one of the times was the ambulances do like a correspondence with the hospital before you go in so they know what's going on. And I remember my mom was working at the hospital
Oh, okay.
when I got taken there.
Wow.
Was that when were you still living like
Yeah.
like
kinda.
multiple lives at that point? So she was unaware?
They knew I was struggling with addictions,
Okay.
but they didn't know about the whole extent.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like my stepdad knew. My stepdad's a man of say what you mean what you say, don't lie to me. If you're doing something, just tell me, but don't lie to me about it.
Right.
Yeah.
If I ask you something, don't lie to me. It'll be way worse.
Yeah.
And I feel like he knew because he went through some stuff when he was younger too with addiction. And I just think my mom was, what would you say, kind of naive, not wanting to believe that I was doing that. And I think when she seen me come in on an overdose,
God.
it was kind of, like looking back on it, it's like, how much pain do we put our loved ones through because of stuff that we want to do?
Yeah.
And it's like, what did I do when I left the hospital? I went and got high again. I didn't care about the look on my mom's face
Yeah.
but when you're so lost into that world, you don't have a conscience. Like, it's me. And it's like, my mom was dead, like seeing her kid overdosed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like, hey mom, see you later. I'm going to go get high again. And then now that I'm away from that lifestyle, it's just kind of like, it's amazing how powerful drugs are. And it turns you into a person that you've told to yourself your whole life you would never be. And just a lot of things that happen, you would assume you'd be like the look on my mom's face on an overdose. For me, you would have thought, be like, why didn't that change you?
Yeah.
And it's like, when you're so lost in that world, you don't care.
Yeah.
And the only thing you care about again is putting that needle in your arm or getting high again, or that's all you care about. And that's why addiction is so hard, because it's not, for me personally, it wasn't the initial, like the rush of the initial high was cool, but it was the come down and having to deal with reality. So
avoiding reality.
when you're using drugs, when you're in addiction, when you're in that lifestyle, it's not the necessity of the high that is addicting. It's the escaping of reality. So it could be everything in your world's crashing down on you, but if you get high, you don't even think about it. You're so happy. But the second that wears off and you have to try to deal with it again, the only way to escape that again is not wanting to deal with it, is getting high. And then you get to a point where your body becomes so dependent on it Like, it took me 24 days in jail to withdraw fully.
Ooh, God.
And that's the withdrawal process for me was it's graphic. I mean, you're pissing out your ass. You can't make it to the toilet. You're puking. You can't eat. You can't sleep. You're shaking. Your body, like, you go into seizures. Like, the come down off of drugs is very severe. And that's what scares a lot of people. And I feel like a lot of people that are in the addiction world, they try to get clean, but they can't make it past that withdrawal process.
Yeah.
And I know I speak about mentality, like, you got to get through the shit to get over it. There's no escaping it. Like, you have to get through it. And I just don't think for addiction, that part of it is, a lot of people say they want to get clean, but when it comes to really getting clean, it hurts.
Yeah.
It physically and mentally hurts. And I know for me, when I made it past that, I knew I wasn't going to do that again. And then I kind of started, the day I got arrested saved my life. And my mom would say, like, the day you got arrested, I slept. And she would say, I didn't have to worry about you being dead in a ditch, or like when I was told you got arrested, I slept. And being away from that lifestyle for a while and kind of listening to my mom, it was like, okay, like, you didn't only hurt yourself, like, you hurt, like, your family. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to know what my mom went through for so much of my life, seeing what I've done to myself, or I really don't want to know. But the mother she is, she's never given up on me. She's there for me, and she'd always told me, like, you're screwing up, figure it out. And now it's like, she told me the other day, she goes, I'm so proud of you that I don't have to worry about you anymore.
Yeah.
And it was like, I don't think I've ever had so many people in my life pushing me and motivating me and telling me they're proud of me and they love me. And it's like this whole new foreign world to me. That's almost, like I said earlier, like, okay, what do you want from me?
Yeah.
But I really had to change the way my brain thinks. And it's crazy how, if you think a certain way, how closed-minded you can kind of be. And when I started to really train my brain to look at things like more openly, I used to be very closed-minded. Like, this is it. This is the way it is for me.
Black and white.
Black and white.
Yeah.
But now it's like, it's okay to have, like, boundaries on what you will do and what you won't. But at the same time, it's okay to also be open-minded, to listen to people, to kind of have empathy for people's situations, because you never know what somebody's going through.
Yeah.
And just like I tell people all the time, like, even walking next to homeless people and saying, like, hi, or how are you doing? It's like, people in society just look at them and be like, that's disgusting. We'll step around them. We'll walk over them.
Yeah.
But it's like, I've been there. And for me, it's like, you don't know if that person's on their way to kill themselves. And just having somebody be like, just a little bit glimpse of, maybe if it's a fake care, but you showed them something.
People want to be seen.
Yeah.
They want to know that they're
human.
right.
We're all human. And that's my thing with this world, is it's like, who cares if you're black, white, yellow, purple, gay, whatever you are, you're a human being at the end of the day. And if you don't feel like you're seen, then I'm sorry. I'll do my best to make sure that you're seen, or that you're loved, that you're shown love, because I know what it's like to feel alone. And it's, at the end of the day, like, when we die, when we get buried up in 200-300 years from now, they're not going to look at us and say, he was black, he was gay, he was this, he was that. They're going to say, he was a human being.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, we all bleed the same. We all do that. Like, we're human.
Yeah.
I'm not better than nobody else. And I don't judge people off of what they do or what they say, because what I've done and what I've been through is fucked up.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be judged for what I've done. And one of my favorite Bible verses is the whole, like, you're going to judge the splinter in his eye, but you got a beam out of yours. And it's like, it's so easy to, even just the littlest things used to get me mad, like driving to work and somebody's slamming on their brakes. It was like,
Yeah.
like, I get so mad, but
I
it's
still
like,
work on that.
but for me, like, I came to realize that when stuff like that happens, that unexpected stuff that you can't control, if you let that get into your mind and piss you off the whole day,
Yeah.
it's going to make your day harder.
Oh, yeah.
But that person in front of you that did that without
Even
thinking of what they were doing, they're going to go about their day just fine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're going to sit there and let yourself get mad about stuff that you can't control,
Yeah.
it's only going to affect you. And when I started to realize that, it was okay. Like my ex, she was I'm very like direct and assertive, and this is how it is. And she's more passive, kind of not passive, but I process 10,000 miles an hour. Like I go.
Yeah.
And if something happens, I'll talk about it right there.
Yeah.
But she liked to sit there and take time and process and take a while. And I'm not used to that. I'm used to a fast lifestyle.
Yeah.
And the thing she taught me is it's really okay to just take a second and be in the moment. It's okay to, being a man, especially the way I grew up, showing emotion wasn't a thing. I feel like we're taught as a young age that if men show emotion, they're a pussy.
Yeah.
But at the same time, especially in relationships with women, women don't want somebody that's aggressive or that can't really sit there and listen and empathize with how they're feeling or what they're going through. And if you're just constantly look mad or aggressive, it's like a woman should be able to feel secure in every single way, emotionally, mentally, physically, with their partner. But it's hard to do that if you're going to be somebody that's always angry.
Yeah.
Like a woman should know that if something happens, you're there for her and you'll definitely protect her, but you don't have to walk around like you're the baddest on the planet.
She shouldn't be in fear.
Yeah. And she taught me so much about going from my past lifestyle to her to, she was, like I said, she's a middle school teacher, very sweet, very innocent, very passive. And I don't want to say our communications were definitely off.
Yeah.
Because I talk about stuff when it happens. I don't wait.
Yeah.
But that's the only lifestyle I know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I say, like, I'm used to communicating with people like my dad, people that are so mentally and emotionally unavailable and messed up that you have to be aggressive.
Yeah.
Even to just get anything through. Gang members, drug dealers, freaking people in that lifestyle is what I've had for
role models.
From the time I was 15 to 27, 28.
Yeah.
And like we met the week I got out, and it took time. And then when I blew out my knee, hearing like, me as a man, you're supposed to provide, you're supposed to do this, you're supposed to do that. Well, I couldn't work my job anymore. I got hurt, so financial stress, I didn't want it to be on her.
Yeah.
And like I started gaining weight, and it was just all these things, just one thing happens and all these things came back. It was like insecurity after insecurity, like the abandonment stuff. It's like nothing in your life is going to be, there's no way this is real life. She made life so easy. And it's so easy to take that stuff for granted when you lose track of it.
Yeah.
And it's like, when I got into my own depression from these things, I didn't realize how much it hurt her.
Yeah.
Because I was so worried about, in my own head and in my own world, like, everything in your life, there's no way it's good. Like, you're gaining weight again, like, she's not attracted to you. Like, all these things came through my head, and it's like, everybody leaves you eventually, so just push her to that point where she leaves. That self-sabotage, like you said, it's just, that shit's real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had to get to a point, like, when she finally left, I was like, you can't, like, until you change the way you think or the way you choose to have empathy and love for people, you're going to kill everything in your way.
Yeah. Well, you have to choose to have love and empathy for yourself first.
Exactly. And you can only fake it for so long.
Yeah.
You can only, eventually the truth comes out. Eventually the real you will come out and
affect everything around you.
Like I said, when I made a choice to change my life, that's what it was. It wasn't a real emotional, like, dig in and figure it out. I thought it was just forgiving my dad.
Yeah.
And then 6 months into the relationship, it was like all the shit came back. So was it real?
Yeah.
And I had to take a step back and be like, there's still trauma there.
Have you forgiven yourself?
Yeah. Yeah, that was probably a couple weeks ago, actually.
Good for you.
And it was kind of at that point where, like I said earlier, I realized that until I started changing the way I talk, the way I learned I can be calm and assertive and not aggressive.
Mm-hmm.
And with people either with emotional trauma or people that are more sensitive than you, when you start being kind of aggressive, instantly it's a defense for them.
Yeah.
And it's just like that bouncing mirror thing. Like nothing ever gets, and then it just blows up.
Yeah.
But if you can say things in like a manner that's calm, but you still get your point across, people tend to listen more. So for me, it took a lot of these things happening the last month for me to kind of reflect and be like, hey, who are you? What do you want? Because at the end of the day, I still don't know who I am. I had 27 years clouded by addiction and prison and childhood trauma and abuse. And then jumping into a relationship the week I got out, I was always boyfriend. I was never Austin, you know?
Yeah.
So this last month I've had on my own, it's kind of, in a sense, given me a whole new appreciation and motivation for life. And it's kind of helped me to see that being open and vulnerable and emotional is okay.
Mm-hmm.
That being fully emotionally available is okay. And having priorities in line is okay. Because for me, I've always worked. Like work, bring home the money, pay the bills. The old school way of the guys doing that and the women taking care of everything at home. That's how I was raised. That's what I seen with my grandparents, and losing track of working 80 hours a week, and I wasn't emotionally there for her. But for me, I was doing everything I could because I was bringing home the money. But like I said, you can't buy time.
Yeah.
And I think time is some of the most taken for granted stuff we have out there. And you don't really notice the effect or the hurt you've caused somebody until you have to get put on the back burner, until you get put on the sideline.
Yeah.
And it's kind of, in a way, it can either make you a better person or a bitter person. You can say, oh, screw that person, they're stupid. Or you can be like, okay. Like for me, it was everything she said. It's like, wow. It's like, was I really that noticeably like angry for nothing or emotionally unavailable? Because there's a difference between being like, yeah, I understand what you're saying, and really being like, I understand.
Yeah.
And being a man, it's like,
well, everything's an ego shot for us.
It is.
Right?
And
it's a shot right to the balls.
And pride, if you're in a relationship, pride is going to be pride is a big killer.
Yeah. Especially for hyper masculine men.
And it took me a second to realize that I'm not in competition with her.
Right.
Why do I have to be so prideful and always feel like I have to be right?
Yeah.
Why?
Yeah.
Like, your partner should be the one person that you don't have to have any competition or pride or ego or anything with.
Absolutely.
And it took a lot of things to realize all that kind of stuff. And I'm a firm believer everything happens for a reason. And if it's meant to be, it will be.
Yeah.
But if not, you learned a lesson from that person or from that situation.
Yeah.
And like, things that come into life are either like a lesson or a blessing.
Yeah.
And I believe that wholeheartedly.
Yeah. Sometimes both.
At the same time, if trauma or events happen that don't go your way, if you just sit there and look at the negative of it, you're not going to really learn anything.
Yeah.
But if you look at the negative with the positive and say, okay, how do I reflect this in my life? And what do I do differently to make a choice every day that's better?
Yeah. Yeah. Give me something inspirational for our final thoughts.
I mean,
you've given me inspiration the whole time. You've given me goosebumps literally the whole time.
It's been great. I was thinking like it would be great to have you back on and like hear about like what you're doing in the here and now. Yeah.
I'll definitely come back on.
Yeah.
But
It's a really great story.
What's something that you can tell a young, I'll say male, it could be male or female, but a young man that's been through that's going through what you've been through? What could you tell him right now? Just a short sentence to keep that person knowing that they truly, innately matter.
it's okay to not be okay. But if you choose to give up or take the road that's easiest, it's gonna just keep being trauma. But if you can really focus and sit there and choose to really see the lesson for what it is, you're gonna be successful. And successful doesn't mean having the nicest stuff, doesn't mean having all this.
Facts.
Success to me, especially right now in my life, is knowing that I've made it through what I've made it through.
Accomplishment, yeah.
And I have the bare minimum, and I'm thankful for it.
Oh, yeah.
I don't need all this flashy stuff. I don't need this and that, because at the end of the day, you can't take it with you when you're gone. Like I said earlier, I'm going to be at that point in my life where my extra money and my extra time goes to helping other people that need it.
Yeah, good.
And like waking up every day, just waking up is a blessing.
Yeah.
So why not go do something with it?
Hell yeah. How could people reach you?
Instagram, phone number.
Okay. Okay.
I mean,
you want to give that out? What is it? What's your Instagram? You don't have to give out your phone number, but what's your Instagram?
It's just Austin Hodges, 1993.
Okay.
My picture's me getting baptized, but
Cool.
I mean, if people want to reach out to me and they have questions, they can DM me and I can give them my number or
Okay.
spend time with them. I'm available.
Yeah.
Like if you need me, I'm there. I don't
Cool.
care what time of day it is. If I'm working, call me.
Hell yeah.
Like
Good
I
for you.
want to help.
Yeah.
That's what I'm here for.
That's it. Cool, man. Thank you.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.